The honourable member for Richmond.
Mr. Speaker, Nova Scotians today are looking for answers. While we cannot expect the government can control random acts of violence, we have to ask how someone who was under the care and custody of the province of Nova Scotia was allowed out on an unescorted pass with such a violent past in their history. Nova Scotians are asking how Mr. Denny was allowed to leave the East Coast Forensic Hospital in Burnside. My question to the Minister of Justice is, can he advise the House and all Nova Scotians who exactly made the decision to allow Mr. Denny to leave the Forensic Hospital on an unescorted pass?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The process, there's a very defined process under the Criminal Code that's followed. Once the individual is deemed by the committee that they can have a pass, the final stage goes, as I understand the process, to the healthcare professionals of the institution and examine. There's many factors, as I'm learning, that go into the decision making, and to the level of care that is put into it is quite intense. And in this situation here, there is a 1-hour pass issued. I respect the decision and I respect the processes. In that vein, I also want to reiterate the fact that we are doing a complete review. We're looking at policies and procedures. And once we have that, we have to determine were they adequate. And I think my job and my role here is to step back, examine all the facts and situations. I also have to balance the fact that a person is innocent until proven guilty. That's an ingredient that I have to keep out there and respect. At the same time, I am very sensitive and caring about the loss of life and how that has traumatized our province.
The honourable member for Richmond on his first supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, we're once again left in a situation where the Minister of Justice is reacting to an incident rather than being proactive. Mr. Speaker, all Nova Scotians and this government in particular are aware of several incidents where we have seen mistaken releases, unlawful escapes, and administrative errors in our justice system. I've risen in my place several times as justice critic, expressing the concern and the fear that if these problems were not corrected, the safety of innocent Nova Scotians would be put at risk. My question is, will the Minister of Justice advise what safety protocols were in place prior to the approval of Mr. Denny's unescorted leave?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for that question. I want to assure all Nova Scotians that the security and safety at the forensic unit and at the Burnside Correctional Facility are top-notch, and I have all the confidence in that process and procedure. What we have here is a process where individuals that are deemed to be not criminally responsible due to their mental illness. We are dealing with a disease and with an illness that we have to respect the professionals that we hire, that we put in place to monitor. It's separate from government so that government influence isn't interfering with what we see as an arm's length responsibility. At the same time, as Minister of Justice, I have to take public safety and say, how do we balance that? And remember at all times that we're in a democratic, free society, and we have to balance those interests, and I take them all seriously. I welcome the questions, and I look forward to the overall findings that we have to make sure that if there's improvements need to be made to the system, that we make them timely.
The honourable member for Richmond on his final supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, the suspect in this case has a history of violence and was entrusted to the care and custody of our justice system. Nova Scotians are again asking why Mr. Denny was granted an unescorted pass from the East Coast Forensic Hospital. The government has announced today a review is taking place, but we have to wait 30 days to find out the results of those reviews. So my final question is, what immediate steps is the Minister of Justice taking to ensure the safety of those in the care and custody of our province, along with all Nova Scotians?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the utmost confidence in the professionalism of the staff at the Burnside Correctional Facility and at the forensic unit. I also have the utmost confidence and respect for the professionals that are on the committee that examines each and every case. and as Attorney General, I must respect those processes. I do respect those processes, and I allow the system to go its course, and I look forward to any findings we may get in examining the policies and procedures to see whether they were appropriate and adequate and were they followed.